With 2021 wrapping up, I wanted to go back and have a look at some of the games that I missed throughout the year. Blue Fire was one of these. It's a Zelda adventure, Metroidvania kind of game with a lot of focus on platforming and not too much focus on combat. But is it worth the price? I paid €20 for it physically in GameStop, which isn't a bad price considering it comes with its own little manual, which is very interesting. I've never seen a manual, or I haven't seen a manual in ages. But am I glad that I played it? Or should I just skip it? Well, we'll find out now. So basically, Blue Fire is a Zelda-like game with heavy emphasis on platforming and not too much emphasis on combat. So you play as this little cute guy and he actually controls really well. When it comes to the platforming, it's quite smooth. You have a dash ability, double jumps, you have a charge up spin attack that adds one extra jump. So there is plenty of intricacy when it comes to the platforming. And when I started playing the game, it was really fun. The character controls pretty well. There's a few things like the dash kind of not feeling too great. It's like, it's very like bam and then you stop instantly. It doesn't seem to be like a slowdown. At the start you don't have a double jump, which I wish they had from the start, because there was plenty of times where I'd dash and I'd need to correct the jump because the dash just didn't feel 100%. So on top of unlocking abilities as you go along, like a double jump, you also get spirits that change your moves. So you'll get one that maybe lets you jump slightly higher, or one that makes you dash longer, or one that was really handy was a double dash. And it kind of made the platforming a bit too easy. It seemed to break the game. And I think there is when I started to notice that the game is quite sloppily made. So you have these platforming challenges as you go around called voids. And at the start, they were really fun and challenging because my tool set was limited. And as I got on, they did get more complicated, but with all these extras, I could break them really easily, and you could see that they weren't designed for the extra powers in mind. I think it would have been better if the game focused on linear upgrading and then built the game around that instead of how it did it here. So take the double dash, for instance. Like, you can literally cut out so much of the platforming challenges with just the double dash, and it ruined it. And in the end, I didn't actually end up finishing all the voids. The voids give you extra health. And I never bothered with the last few because it just felt like I was just breaking it and there was no real incentive for me to do it. So the game is like a Zelda adventure where you have to go to temples and kill bosses and then, you know, get some 3 souls and then you end up fighting the final boss. You know, normal stuff like that. And when it comes to the temples, I thought they were quite unmemorable. I think apart from the platforming, puzzles were basically non-existent. Like, I don't like puzzles, but there was too few puzzles in this where it felt like I was just doing platforming. Now, as I said, the platforming does feel good, but I think there needed to be more puzzles and combat to change things up. And when it comes to the combat, it never really felt 100%. Ground combat was okay, but all you did was mash square and you had a ranged magic ability. But when you had to attack aerial enemies, which most of the bosses are, you have to launch towards them. But as I said, the dash isn't very good, so once you got up there, all you had to do was mash square. And then the bosses themselves, bar the final 4 bosses, they actually felt good. But the mini bosses in the dungeons just felt like, you know, dash, smack them around a bit and then dodge a few attacks. There wasn't really much in them. I think the overall aesthetic and theme of the game is really good. It's really lonely and somber. It gives off like a Dark Souls vibe, and this is reinforced by the NPCs who give you like cryptic hints on where to go, and that's where you start to get into the really big problem. So at the start of the game, I was having a lot of fun and I was like, whoa, this is like, I was going to call this video like Blue Fire, a hidden gem or something, but now I'm probably going to call it something like Blue Fire, wasted potential, because the start was really good. And then when you started to get into more areas, there's no map. And then you realize that the game is really aimless most of the time. And this can work in its favor. Like in Dark Souls and Zelda, it is quite aimless, especially in Majora's Mask. But I think that works in its favor. And also you have a map. But in this game, there's no map. So I found myself having to run around, trying to find where I need to go. I knew where I needed to go, but I couldn't find where I had to go, if you get me. It was quite difficult. A map would have benefited this game so much, and it would have like gave it an extra point or 2 on the point scale, if I do give scores, but I don't. So as I was saying, the video is going to be called Wasted Potential, and the main reason for this is because, say like the first half of the game is solid, then you start to get into the backtracking part where the lack of a map really ruins it. But then on top of that, it does the thing that every Metroidvania / adventure game does, where, oh, you're almost at the end. So now you have to go back to all the other areas and we'll force you to go back so that you can find extra items that will lead you to the next boss or something. And I hate when games do this. Twilight Princess did it, Metroid Prime did it, it just ruins them. Metroid Prime, for example, I was almost going to say that game is near perfect. And then the end part happens where they force you to backtrack. I don't mind when games incentivize you to backtrack because they're fun to backtrack in, but when they force you to backtrack through areas that you've already explored, I really dislike that, and Blue Fire does the exact same thing. Now, it is short. I think I beat it in 7 hours and I had 80% completion. It does have a nice platinum, So if you're a Platinum Hunter, then I would probably pick it up if you like Metroidvania / adventure games, because it's decent and it has a good Platinum, and for the price, I think it's worth it. Now, I did say that it's wasted potential, and obviously I did give you the reasons, but I don't think I'm disappointed that I spent €20 on it. So I have a few other games like Stubbs the Zombie that I'd like to make videos like this on at the end of this year. And I think €20, I would recommend this game, but if you wanted to, you could wait for a sale, because I think the game is just slightly too sloppy. For someone like me who loves platforming and Zelda, I did have some fun, but I think if you're easily frustrated by like just games feeling a bit off, then I think this game is a complete avoid for you. I think it has a great aesthetic. Some of the music is really good. The platforming is really fun when you have the abilities, but once you start to get into the upgrades, then it starts to get really sloppy. So I think if the game was designed slightly tighter, then it would have benefited it a lot. Well, there we have Blue Fire. I would love to know what you think about the game. I haven't heard many people talk about this. I remember IGN, I think, did a preview for it, and it got a small bit of hype, but once it came out, I never really heard anything about it. But I really appreciate you watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, join the Discord down below. Let me know what you think of Blue Fire and if you have any other games that are like this, because I'd like to play some more. And I'll see you all on the next video.